Oh, yes, indeed. If you don't like that. Hi, everybody. How the heck are you? Grant Neep here. And in just a few moments, Jerry Reynolds will be on. We'll talk about what we saw last night in front of a national television audience. Hit me up with some chat messages and we'll get rolling. Also, Ryan in Sacktown will join us. We got a lot of things going on today with the Kings now a game over 500 at 7-6 after starting the season at 0-4. Last night, a lot of fun. I did a rant on this today. And again, I understand the jubilation. I understand the excitement, but I think you need to kind of, pump the brakes a little bit. You blew out the Brooklyn Nets. Now, 153 points is impressive. I don't care if you're playing the worst team in the league, the best team in the league, a team that's right in the middle. Looking that good offensively is unbelievably impressive. I mean, 153 points is 153 points. All right. But you beat the Brooklyn Nets, all right? You didn't beat Bill Russell's Celtics or Magic Johnson's Lakers. And I'm not taking away any of the excitement, trust me. I've been down this road a couple times before as the one and only Jerry Reynolds always used to tell me is I've been around the block a couple of times, all right? Now, I haven't been around the block as much as Jerry Reynolds, but I've been around the block. Speaking of the man, Jerry Reynolds. Jerry, you've been around the block so often that you got the block memorized. How the hell are you, Jerry?
Oh, I'm good. I got a little bit of a cold. I sound a little funny, but I sound funny when I don't have a cold. So I guess that's okay. But as you said, yeah, I've been around the block, and I always used to say, I've been to the carnival and I've rode every ride. So nothing's new.
That was a hell of a performance last night. I think what made it extra fun was the fact that the Kings aren't on national TV very often. That's their one time, and they put on a show for the nation. And I think that was maybe the thing that I took away from that game more than anything. I think that's why we had over the top excitement, TNT in the building, and boy, did the Kings rock.
Oh, yeah, it's great. I mean, I've always said that even when the team wasn't winning, was losing, it's been a fun team to watch. But it's just getting better and better. And last night, as you pointed out, I mean, being on national television, I think first time since 2018 or something on TNT and putting on a marvelous show. Clearly showed the talent of the team this year, and that for fans, around the country, I mean, they just continually think in terms, and rightly so, of a franchise that just can't get out of its own way, and so you kind of have to prove that you've gotten out of your own way, and I think that was pretty good evidence put
Yep.
out there last night.
Well, Jerry, you've been in this game, pretty much all your life. Teams do get hot. They do go on runs. Teams will also hit lulls. This team's not going to end up going 76-6 this year. They're going to have some losses along the way. But let's talk about the positives first. It just seems like everybody's really buying into the role. And something else we're learning about this team: they can score from multiple areas on the floor.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, but I mean, I'm convinced this team can score. I mean, defensively, they still have their issues, and I think they're getting better. The effort's been consistent, but probably, need to still get better at that, and certainly protect the rim a little bit. All those things, but this team is a team that can score, and they have got a bunch of shooters. And I'll tell you what, I think Monty McNair has to be given a real vote of confidence here because every addition to this team that he's made in the last year has been better than advertised. I mean, Kevin Herter and Malik Monk and of course the rookie Keegan Murray, who is still a rookie, but I mean they're all shooters. This was a team that lacked shooting last year. Boy, it doesn't now. I mean, and then of course the improvement of course Fox as well. He's proven he can make deep shots. So yeah, I mean, I think this is a good team. I don't know, like you, I don't know where it's going to go. And the only thing I'd want to temper my emotions a little bit because I get carried away too. I'm a fan. Is that this has been the healthiest team in the league.
That's true.
And we know how the league works over 82 games. So, this is a team that could not do well without Sabonis for any length of time. I'm pretty sure of that, or Fox.
Yep. Well, I've been saying that too all week. All right. So let's talk about a trend that I'm seeing, and I want to pick your brain on this. So, for instance, against the Warriors, at home. They give up 39 points, I believe, in the first quarter. Do you think the Kings are starting to fall into a little bit of a mentality where they know that they're so good offensively that they can withstand 8, 10, 12 minutes of bad defense and catch up? Because it just seems like in almost every game, maybe with the exception of the Nets, the Kings have had really bad lulls defensively, and it doesn't seem like it matters if they're down 20. They can catch right back up.
Well, I do think by the nature of the way they play, they're going to have stretches where, they're missing shots. And the other team, when you're shooting a lot of long shots, there's long rebounds and there's transition opportunities. And that's why you have an NBA today. You've always had runs and differentials. But in the league today, I mean, 15, 18 points doesn't mean anything. 3 or 4 minutes, it can be gone. And so I think that's part of it. I mean, I do think that this team has so much confidence in their offense that they sometimes slack up on the defensive side, and that's something they've got to get better at. I'm from what I've seen, I'm very confident in Coach Brown and his staff. I've seen them call timeouts and quick when things were out of line. We haven't seen that in years, and I think they're on the right track, and it's just a matter of kind of continue to get better. You're not going to get 31 off the bench out of Terrence Davis every night.
No.
But they wouldn't have needed that anyway.
No.
I mean, that's the good point.
Jerry, I think it was 3 shows ago, but it would have been less than 2 weeks. You were critical of the way they were using Domantas Sabonis. You didn't feel that he was being utilized properly. Have the Kings made a change in that area, or is Sabonis now just taking what the coach wants him to do and riding with it?
Well, I think I think they've made a change, and certainly if they haven't, Domas has made the change because he is certainly the focal point of the offense.
Yep.
Anytime you're in the half court, basically he's going to touch the ball every time or set multiple screens, and and I think it's the big reason. I mean, Fox is the most gifted player on this team, but Sabonis is the most valuable. Anybody that doesn't see that just not watching closely, because everything kind of flows through him. Much to me, it's a lot like Vlade in the old days, except quite honestly, he's a more gifted player than Vlade. He's not quite as talented as Weber, but he's probably an easier guy to play with than Weber. and I always say, when I just look at certain numbers, and if you're good, always look at the top of the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're bad, look at the top of the lineup, who the best players are. Well, the best players are Fox and Sabonis, and they're scoring 42 points a game on about 28 shots.
Mm-hmm.
And that will win, sports fans. That will win. They're both highly productive.
So based on what you just said, and you're right about the Kings being healthy right now, and we know that's not going to stay that way the whole year, but you hope you don't have any serious injuries. Based on what you just said, Sabonis then, in your opinion, would be the most difficult guy to replace in the lineup? In other words, I thought it was Fox. I thought if Fox gets hurt, the Kings are in a lot of trouble. But you feel maybe even more so if Sabonis were to go down for any period of time?
I do, because he has a skill set that you can't match. I mean, there's not 5 guys like him in the league. That was the kind of the reason I thought, as much as we all love Tyrese Halliburton, and I felt it was a terrific trade because you can't draft somebody like him. It's so hard.
Yeah.
And not saying you can't, but you can get wings and guards, and the Kings had wings and guards to some level. So and they were able to pick up some more talented ones like Herter and Monk. So I think. As good as Fox is, you'd certainly miss him because he can't be replaced. But when you have still, a Herter, a Monk, a Davis, a Davion Mitchell, all guys who could play more and make it up differently. It's one of those next guy up type things, but they do have a good depth at the guard line. Where at center, no disrespect to Metu or Rashawn Holmes, and I think Rashawn can play a certain way, play very effectively, but the way the Kings are playing now, he doesn't really fit that style very well. And Metu is just not the same player.
Nice shirt, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought
Yeah,
you'd like that.
yeah,
Free stuff. I wear it
yeah.
till you
What
can't
year?
wear it.
What year is that?
I don't know. What
It
does it
says right on
say?
your shirt.
Oh, 2017.
Okay, well, that's not that old for you. I mean,
No,
that's
no,
kind of a
no.
that's a new shirt in your wardrobe.
Hey, it's got 10 more years in it, buddy. 10 more years at least.
Well, I'm glad you said you didn't know. That's why we put the year on there for you can understand exactly what we're talking about.
Hey, I'm at the age, I don't want to know the year. I don't want to know. Not important.
It's funny about that, but I have a lot of those shirts too that I still wear. They actually
I'm sure
hold up
you
pretty
do.
well.
Yeah, you probably got a lot more than I do, but thank you for giving them to me. And yeah, the travel bags and things from your future foundation.
Yep.
Very helpful.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we enjoyed helping out the students, as you well know. All right, so when you look at this team, 0-4, now 7-6, here's what I get a kick out of. And listen, you and I, we understand the excitement of the Kings fans. We've been through a lot of lean years, so we get their excitement. I'm happy for the fans, but you wouldn't believe I did a show last night, okay, on Listen App. And you would have thought the Kings had just won the seventh game of a playoff series. And I had one guy call up and tell me that it was the biggest regular season win in 20 years. And I started laughing. And then I had another one say, Grant, the Kings are only 2.5 games out of this top spot in the West. And I said, that's very true. They're also only 2 games out of being 13th in the West. So, you got to always look at both sides of the equation here.
Well, you do. And I mean, and I get it, and I really get why the fans, if you've been beat down so long, you're searching for anything. And I do think, and I mean, I don't know where this team is going to end up. But there's two things I feel from watching a lot of the teams in the league is there's no reason for this Sacramento Kings edition to have any fear of anybody on their schedule. I mean, I'm not saying they can beat them. They'll lose games, but there's not teams out there that you just say, well, they got no chance against this team. Now, there's some couple of teams in the East that would scare me a little bit, Boston and Milwaukee when they're completely healthy. I think it'd be tough. But in the West, why would you be scared of Portland or Utah or Golden State or anybody?
Yep.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying what I'm saying. It's the first time I feel like in years that you just look at the rosters of these teams and say, well, okay, they're probably better and they're probably better, but
roll out the ball.
Roll out the ball and let's go prove it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to find out. The Boston game is coming up on our next road trip. So, and that next road trip is going to be you want to talk about, you're going to get a real measuring stick with Atlanta, with Memphis, with Boston. I think I'm leaving a team out here. But first things first, the one thing about this Kings team, they have shown the ability over the years, and I know this is a new mix of players, so maybe it's unfair to compare it to previous years. They have shown the ability in the past to look great one night and then come out and lay an egg in their next game. And that next game is tomorrow against the Spurs, who really have started to slide.
Yeah, they have. I think they will slide. I mean, I think, they're playing about as well as they can, but they really don't have the talent, I don't think, to compete in the West. The thing that has struck me all along with this particular Kings team is that even in their losses, they had chances to win.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you go back most years and there'd been 2 or 3 games by now that would have been ass kickings where they weren't in the game at some point, and that just hasn't been the case. So I think that's very encouraging. I mean, if you're not, it sounds simplistic, but if you're not in the game, you can't win it. And certainly this team has been in games they didn't win a couple times. Some questionable calls didn't say they were going to win, but they would have been in overtime or had a chance to get to overtime. And so it's not a given. But I just think they're so good offensively that most nights, I mean, they're not going to make shots every night. That's the way it works. I don't care who they are, and so they're dependent on that. But they're also versatile enough that hey, if the three's not going, you can look inside to that big fella in there and he can score a little, or he can find you easier shots.
Do you think their offense has been really predicated on their ball movement? I mean, their assist totals in a lot of these wins have been really outstanding.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I really credit Coach Brown and his staff. I mean, they've done a marvelous job. And here again, I'm probably going overboard here on Sabonis, but it all flows through
Yep.
Sabonis. I mean, he's got the ball in his hand the most. He also sets about all of the screens. And when a guy that has the ball the most also is extremely unselfish, that tends to work for everybody else. I mean, you see a main guy that's getting you open shots, you're going to want to get him open shots.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we've seen marvelous ball movements. The spacing, excuse me, the spacing is so good. And people say, well, why is it? Well, because everybody can shoot.
Yep.
Everybody can shoot deep except Sabonis. And really, his career at 3-point shooting has been 32% for all those years in Indiana, which was exactly the same as Miles Turner, who people think is a good 3-point shooter. So I always got a kick out of that. But I mean, the Kings can every lineup. You can put. They have basically 4 guys who can make threes on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's we haven't seen that. We just haven't seen that.
Well, you made a good point. I mean, if you're getting ready to play Sacramento, and you're looking at this team, and you've got all the games, and you're going through the scouting report, and you're trying to say, okay, all right, you take me through this process, Jerry. You're getting ready to play the Kings tomorrow night. You're Pop. I mean, where do you start with your defensive scheme?
Well, I think just the obvious, Fox and Sabonis. I mean, you are gonna probably want to deny Sabonis the ball, and if possible, you're going to want to make sure that Fox has to dribble a lot in order to get shots.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to let him move without the ball or spot up. But you'd start with Sabonis. I mean, there's certainly if Keegan Murray's playing, he's been scouted pretty well. You want to stay with him. Don't give him open looks. But the problem that Pop would have, like most people, well, how many guys can you focus on? Can you focus on Malik Monk coming off the bench? Can you focus, on Terrence Davis, for goodness
Mm-hmm.
sakes? Harrison Barnes has got his game back.
Yep.
And really, Herter may be the third guy here because he and Sabonis have developed a great chemistry to where, it seems like in the clock running down, you need a shot. I mean, Sabonis knows he can go find Herter and get him a look. And if he gets a look, he's been making them.
Mm-hmm. We just got an interesting message on the chat line about the officiating this year. And I'm not one to rag on the officials. I mean, you and I have both been, I think, extremely objective when it comes to talking about officiating. And we point out when they get booed after we see the replay and they've made the right call. We're also not afraid to point out when we're wrong in calling out an official. But I really do think the officiating has been subpar this year. I think that the officiating this year, and again, I know we're 1 month into the season, but I think it's gone down a level. I've been disappointed with what I've seen this season.
I have too. I mean, I really have. I mean, and it's an impossible game to call. We know that, but I think it's they've missed more calls, more big calls, and than I can remember. And the Kings certainly, for the most part, have not had a very good whistle now. The last couple of games, I honestly think Fox and particularly Sabonis have kind of got bailed out a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I always say I kind of waiting for the broadcast team to point that out because it's like, it goes both ways. And I think as a team, if it starts and continues to win, it probably will equal out. But the whistle has not been, in my mind, balanced overall yet. But the last couple games are, maybe getting there.
All right. Somebody says, as we previously discussed, Kings need a shot blocker. Thoughts on the idea of acquiring either Mo Bamba or Nerlens Noel?
I like Mo Bamba. If I were the Kings, I'd look into that. I would. I mean, he's not going to play for Orlando. They've got too many guys. And the thing I like about him,
Mm-hmm.
he's a 7-footer that can block shots, but he doesn't play center. He's not any good around the basket. He's a 3-point shooter and a good one. And I think he'd fit excuse me, great on this team. Nerlens Noel, no, he's hurt too much anyway. But Mo
Yep.
Bamba, I think that would be a terrific pickup.
What about Davion Mitchell? This message: we need better playmaking and leadership from Davion off the bench.
I think Davion needs to play better. I kind of think that he will. I think and I've said this many times and I'll stay with it. He's a guy, the more he plays, the better he plays.
Yep.
A real little bulldog like that, he's like a young Kyle Lowry. 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. You're never going to get the best of Davion Mitchell. I think we saw in Charlotte when Fox got hurt. I mean, Davion was terrific. He basically won the game, and 23. I mean, and that's where he was. And I get that you can't do that now. You got too many guys. So I would be a little bit. I'm at the stage where I just kind of back off there because the guy changes the game defensively every game he plays in. So you always have that. There is not a single guard in this league, and you can watch. They don't like playing against him, and coaches know, and I guarantee you, coaches around the league now they scout to help their offensive players against Davion. Whoever he's guarding gets extra screens, and they need them.
You mentioned Bulldog. You sound like a Bulldog today a little bit. Now that
I do. My senior warrior has turned into a little bulldog to go with
it. Oh my gosh. Hey, I'm just curious, with your schedule, and I know that you watch basketball. Did you get a chance to watch any of the college games last night?
I really didn't.
Okay.
I didn't watch it. I've gotten so now I don't really watch much college until they get into conference schedules and stuff. So,
I didn't know. I figured, with Duke, Kansas, the big coach, without Coach K there now in Duke, and obviously the power teams. I'm just curious if you glanced at those at all. But you wait until they start conference play, huh?
Yeah, I don't really watch as much NBA as I used to because I don't get paid for it. So I mean, I just kind of pick and watch the games I really want to watch and the players I want to watch. So it's like with when it gets around the draft, I always kind of start focusing in the top college guys, and that's why you can see guys a few times think, yeah, I really like this Keegan Murray, or I like this guy or that guy, but so I'm just like any other fan. I just have an opinion based on limited knowledge, I think, in that
Cody
regard.
says Cody feels that Malik Monk is a better passer playmaker than De'Aaron Fox.
I don't know that he's better, but I think they're close. And that's a good thing. I mean, that's one thing where Monk has surprised me. He's a far better playmaker than I anticipated. And, I was one of those guys, on the King's Herald thing I do is that middle of last year, I said Monk was a guy they needed to focus on because they needed shooting. But I've been following him because I felt like he was really starting to become the player there one thought he would be at Kentucky. And, so he's a perfect fit, but where he surprised me, he's a much better playmaker than I thought. He really can make some plays, and I think he and De'Aaron have a lot in common. I've always said I think De'Aaron's more of a scorer who can make plays, and I think when you put him in that situation, he's just so much better, and I think we're seeing it.
Always great to have you on talking about the Kings and the NBA. And I want to talk about the NBA for a minute. And I also want to keep on the path of the Kings. I did a rant on this the other day. And you've been involved as a general manager in making trades. And you made maybe the biggest trade in the history of the Kings organization when you acquired Mitch Richmond from the Warriors. And I've always said it takes a couple of years to evaluate a trade. We didn't need a couple of years to evaluate that trade. I mean, I think you knew pretty much early on that you would hit a grand slam home run. But with the trade that the Kings made with the Pacers last year, I still want to wait a little while. But why can we not just acknowledge that both teams are very happy with the trade? It's a trade that seems like it has worked out very well for both teams. I mean, we see what Sabonis is doing in Sacramento. And from what I understand, and maybe you would be able to answer this better than I would due to all your contacts back in Indiana, the Pacers are thrilled with what they're getting in Tyrese Halliburton. They're extremely happy. They feel they can build a team around him.
Yeah, that's where I look at it. I mean, it's certainly I mean, Tyrese is terrific, and he was the guy I just love watching play, and I knew he's going to had some real star potential, and he certainly nothing to dispel that. He's on the right track, and they're very happy with him. I know for a fact, and but it's a great trade for both teams.
Yes.
The Kings had more guard talent than they had big people talent, and so I thought it made sense at the time, and I've seen nothing to think otherwise. I think both teams won. To be
Yep.
honest with you, I think both teams won that.
Speaking of the Mitch Richmond trade, the you got destroyed for that from the Bay Area media, did you not?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
They got quiet pretty
That was,
quickly, didn't they?
yeah, it's it's interesting. It was like somehow or another the guy that had been rookie of the year and the second year was even better, being traded for Billy Owens. Who they were given Hall of Fame status without ever playing. Which we know everybody falls in love with the draft every year, and certain guys you think they're all going to be this or that, and most of them aren't. And that's why I made the deal, because I thought the Kings needed a star and they didn't have one. Well, they got one. But the funny part was, it wasn't too long till after the Bulls and Michael Jordan came in to play the Warriors, and of course the media went to him and said, "Oh boy, the Kings really screwed up, trading Billy Owens." And Jordan said, "Good, basically, good Lord, Mitch is toughest guy I play against." That was a great trade for the Kings.
Yep.
And after that, they kind of, it was not like they're going to apologize, but they shut up, that's for sure. And of course, within a month, it was pretty clear that Billy was a good player, but Mitch was an elite player.
Well, your 70% is better than most people's 100, so I'll let you go. I know you're dealing with a cold. You want to quickly plug the podcast that you do with Whitey and Phantom? Because I know you do that twice a week.
Yeah, we do. It's called The Old Fashioned Three. It's on, YouTube's the best place to get it. Whitey Gleason, the Phantom, myself. And it's just like the title, Old Fashioned Three. We're a bunch of old farts. It's like three guys sitting around the bar shooting a bull. And occasionally there'll be a nugget. There might be a nugget of information in there that you might want. But most of it you probably won't. But like I say, Granny, it won't hurt you. Whenever you start listening, you won't be hurt. It may not change your life, but it won't hurt you.
Well, you are the best. I'll talk to you next Wednesday. Get better, okay?
I hope so. And hey, this has been the highlight of my day, so that's for sure. I'll wear a newer Grant shirt next time.
All right, take care, Jerry. Oh my gosh, what an absolute classic. We'll talk with Ryan in Sacktown in a moment, but I want to tell you that we're coming to you courtesy of New Works Plumbing. New Works Plumbing of Sacramento, locally owned for over 20 years. New Works has a fix for you. And remember, if you have an emergency in the middle of the night, no problem. They'll be there with their 24/7 service. Just go to sackserviceplumbing.com. That's sackserviceplumbing.com. I think maybe the toughest act in show business is Ryan in Sacktown, because he's got to follow Jerry Reynolds. I really don't know how you do that. So you're on the hot seat. You got to try to duplicate Jerry Reynolds.
Yeah, it's pretty impossible. How you doing today, Grant?
I'm good. I love the passion and the excitement with what's going on in Sacramento. Isn't it amazing? I talked about this on my podcast the other day. Hope and a franchise. And just think about what one good week or two good weeks of basketball can do for a fan base, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It truly is. And I think, too, we've kind of seen the pieces, right? We saw a good preseason, and obviously the start of the season 0-4, but we were still kind of encouraged by what we were seeing. And so, that hope's out there. And it's impressive for the fan base after 16 years of missing the playoffs that, we go on a 4-game winning streak, and you're seeing the reaction that we're seeing now.
Good stuff from Rich, who made the trip to Florida. He's on his way to Miami. Afternoon, guys, listening from Orlando. Rich, we appreciate that. I hope you have beautiful weather down there in the world of Disney, and we're glad to have you here on the stream. I guess they put your tweet on TNT. Is that right? I was not aware of that.
Yeah, they did. I did. Basically the NBA on TNT needs some more cowbell. Little thing like that with Will Ferrell in the background.
Good for you.
So, yeah, it was cool to see that up there.
Now, I didn't see their post game. They give a lot of love to the Kings, or were they talking about what's wrong with the Nets?
No, Ernie kind of switched it over and kind of got him back on track. But I will say the preparation was a little by the TNT team, especially Kenny Smith. He called Terrence Davis something Davis the third or second. But the pregame was funny because they were kind of hyping up that Sack's not usually on national TV and joking around. And then at halftime, they're like, this team is pretty fun. So that was a cool thing.
Well, that's good. And that's what I mean. I think that I take away from last night. I mean, a win's a win. I don't get too crazy over a win or vice versa on a loss in an 82-game season. But I think it opened up some eyes around the league. I think when you can get the attention of the national media, then you start getting more people talking about you. And I think that's a positive for Sacramento.
Sure, Grant. Absolutely. And the performance they put on last night, the biggest thing to me was they were unselfish. They made that extra pass. And when you do that, I mean, 153 was 1 point away from the franchise record that was set in 1992. But you're not going to put that up every night. But seeing the way that they were playing, that's a fun brand of basketball. And the stat line that stands out the most to me, and I'm going to kick this back to you, 14 points, 9 assists, and 1 turnover. Who was that?
Boy, I'm sorry. You stumped me. I don't have the box in front of me, but that's pretty freaking impressive.
De'Aaron Fox. And he was just as excited as every other guy on the floor, cheering him on, not pouting because he didn't have 35. And it shows this team can do it a bunch of different ways.
That's a great point you just made. I think that's fabulous. I used to, 32 years, there were guys that were box score guys. And what that means is at the end of a game, the first thing they would do is grab the box score, see how many minutes they played, how many points, how many rebounds. And if they didn't get the minutes or if they were unhappy with the box score, even if the team won, they would be pissed off. And I never understood that. I hated that me first mentality. The me first mentality doesn't work in a basketball locker room. It just doesn't. It's a team game. And when you have one guy that's selfish like that, it can really ruin the dynamic of what's going on. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's a great point by you.
Thank you. Yeah, it can. And this team doesn't seem to be like that team. I'm not going to compare them to 0-2, but it seems like they've got – we talked a couple days ago about the team gelling. It seems like they really are. I mean, even in that Miami game that they lost with the bad call, you saw the guys up on the bench jumping around, and they were in the midst of, a bad run at that time. So
that's right.
Let's see. I mean, I know I heard reports they had a lot of fun in the locker room, but they stayed composed last night too. They didn't get too high.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good thing for them, no doubt.
Well, the reality is they should win their next 2 games against San Antonio tomorrow, who's now struggling. They lost last night to Portland, although they played them tough. And then you got Detroit, and you have Marvin Bagley that's coming in, and that should be fun. Just fun because the fans are going to be all over his case. He now starts for the Pistons. And so, first things first, you got San Antonio. But again, there's no reason why the Kings should not win both these games.
No, there's not. We always say the word consistent, and we always talked about playing down to your opponent's level. And these 2 games are really, really important for my eye test with this team because I want to see them come out with that same intensity like they're playing on national TV. I don't expect 153 points, but I do expect 2 wins in these games because they have got a brutal stretch of basketball coming up after that. I believe from 11-16 to 12-16, I want to say. They play 10 away games and 3 home games. And it's a brutal stretch with Celtics. And so, I think that if they don't win these games, it's a little bit of a cause for concern. But I'm confident they're going to probably get 1 of 2 at least. Because do you expect, Grant, any type of hangover, or is 1 and 2 a disappointment? Or 1 and 1, excuse me.
Yes, I think 1-1 right now would be a disappointment because you're better than both the teams that you're going to be playing. So that means you would have lost to an inferior team. So to me, not winning both these games, going out onto a very difficult road trip, and I wasn't aware that Bane got hurt from Memphis, and he's going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. So that's great news. He killed the Kings 2 weeks ago when Memphis was in town. Killed the Kings. So that you always look for positives, but you don't know if the Kings are going to be healthy when they get to Memphis. So Jerry made a very good point. The Kings have been the healthiest team in the league. And these things tend to even out. If you lose Sabonis or you lose Fox, and I was very interested in what Jerry had to say about Sabonis. I thought the Kings would have a more difficult time replacing Fox. He believes it's Sabonis, which, that's Jerry's knowledge. I was not aware that he would go in that direction saying that, but that was very interesting to me.
Yeah, it was, Grant. And you know what? I think that's a great problem and debate to have for a team, right? That you can teeter-totter back and forth on who the most important player is to have on the floor. We have been the Kings have been relatively healthy. Obviously, Keegan went out last night. He only played 12 minutes.
Yep.
Appears to be a back injury. There are some reports that he'll likely be listed as questionable for tomorrow's game. But, overall health is going to matter. And, Sabonis and Fox 1-2 punch. We're going to have to see how they play without each other. Sabonis has played every game this season, I believe. Fox has missed one. So we have small sample size without Fox. I'd like to see the sample size without Sabonis, not long term, and see how that affects the offense.
All right. So we got a lot of good things going on here. Tomorrow night, after the Spurs game, I'm going to be right here on YouTube Live. So I'll do a post-game show following the Spurs game. Looking forward to that. So make a note of that right here on YouTube Live. But right now, Ryan, everything's going great. I mean, the Kings started off 0-4. They're now 7-6. They look like they can win anytime they step onto the floor. And when's the last time you could say that? So everything's looking good right now. Ride the wave. Ride the wave, Ryan. Ride the wave.
Absolutely. Let's have fun with it. Keep it in perspective, certainly, and stay healthy. And like you said, stay. Just make sure that you're in the race at this point in the season. So.
Nita's spot on. They should not be closer nail biters. They really shouldn't. But you'll take a 1-point win. I mean, that's the name of the game in the standings. But for sure, they should win both these games. Jeff says we need an example of no Sabonis when he was in foul trouble, or we see an example of no Sabonis when he was in foul trouble. Yeah, that's true. Very good point.
It's a good point,
It's a
Jeff.
great point. Yeah, absolutely.
Very true.
All right. Hey, buddy, you enjoy the rest of your day. What's on the dinner menu tonight?
Oh, man. Tonight is leftovers. We're going to go pork, a little bit of mushroom reduction, and mashed potatoes again. Enjoy,
buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
All
right, Grant.
Again, great stuff today on the stream from Jerry and all these folks on the chat line. We need a new nickname, or we need a nickname for Keegan. I'll ask Jerry to work on that. Jerry is the king of nicknames, right? So, I mean, who better to ask than Jerry Reynolds? So we'll see if he can do that. We'll see if they can do that. I love the folks out here on the chat line, and we got well over 100 people on the stream today, and I'm looking forward to coming on tomorrow right after the Kings Spurs game right here. Good stuff. Appreciate all the compliments. Do me a favor, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. It would mean a lot to me, and you'll always be notified when we are going to be doing a show. Again, I love doing this. YouTube Live to me has been a lot of fun. And then if you haven't joined me on Listen App, I do that show every day at 4 o'clock Pacific. Easy to download, whether you're on Android, whether you are on Apple, whatever. It's easy to download, and you can listen. It's like radio. It's like a radio show, but it's not on the radio. All right, so I'm going to be doing that coming up here in let's see what time it is, in about 20 minutes. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, hey, thank you very much. Really good show today. I appreciate everyone and your support. And for Jerry Reynolds and Ryan in Sacktown, I'm Grant Napier. Don't forget, back here tomorrow after Kings basketball. Take care, and thanks very much. So long.